Well, hello, guys. Thank you guys again for being here today. And I know it's been a bit of a break. We took a little break there just because we have been planning for this year. And of course, these things takes time, take persistence, takes a lot of effort. And so, but with that being said, and once I turn my camera on here, we're going to go ahead and get right into our show today. Now, if this is your very first time listening to the Lift All Voices podcast, we want to welcome you to this platform here. You're now part of the tribe, of course. Those of you who are returning back to the show, of course, we welcome you back into the fold, into the tribe. Now, this month, March, it's all about women, right? It's all about amplifying voices of women within our community, right? We all have been impacted one way or another by a phenomenal, strong, powerful woman. And we're going to be amplifying their voices here today, right? And this whole month. So stay tuned to, and always remember to come back as you'll be able to hear more stories and more interesting topics about how women can be able to be empowered. Now, our guest today is an international conference speaker. She's giving speeches all over the place. She is a phenomenal woman herself. She's a business architect, I would like to say as well. Now, she's also an author, and she's helped many people, women from the diaspora, everywhere, to be able to own their business and be able to transfer and transform their business with her own personal strategy that she's been able to leverage to educate women and help them build something for themselves, right? Now, with no further ado, I'd like to welcome Ms. Dina Burke. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Well, you're welcome. I'm
Thank
glad
you.
you came.
Thank you.
I'm glad to have you here. And just a quick information here that she's actually joining us today from, I believe, the Caribbean.
Yes, I'm in Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay.
So yes, that's the Caribbean island straight at the end of the archipelago. That's where you'll find us, right next to Venezuela.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I know you guys have one of the most beautiful scenery out there, the beaches, just the vibe, everything there is just a lot of great things going on in that side of the world. So thank you for being here with us today.
I'm happy to be here. I'm really happy to be here and to add my voice to the conversations.
Awesome. So with no further ado, let's get into our topic right now. So today, Ms. Dina is going to be sharing with us ways that women can use their vision as something we all have, right? We all have a purpose, we have a vision. She's going to share with us how women can be able to transform those vision and into, and also transform the life, whether it be the business life, the regular life, how to use their vision to transform that to become what they wanted to become and to be able to fulfill their purpose, right? And so you will also learn about great strategies to get more result from your business, because that's always about also too. It's about, once you have that vision, how do you transform that and be able to make profit and be able to grow a business? So let's get into it. I would like to actually start from the very beginning, because I know all of us have a story where we start from before we got to where we are today, right? For you as a business architect. So let's start from the beginning. I'd like to actually go ahead and start from you being a young girl growing up in the beautiful Caribbean island. And how was life like, and how has it been like for you?
That's a great question. So for me, I actually did not come from a very well-off background.
Mm-hmm.
My family, I was born into a lower class family. And in that environment, my parents didn't have much, but you know what? They ensured that I went to school. They ensured that they did the best that they could. But in that space,
Mm-hmm.
I think that in that environment is actually where I found my superpower, which is the ability to vision beyond where you're at.
Right.
I remember growing up, looking around at everyone and they kept staying in the same space and in the same environment. And there was something in me that I wanted something different for myself. As a child, I did not have a big self-esteem in terms of my physical appearance, even though, you know, we're in the Caribbean, there are a lot of places that look like I do. In that space, we were still in an era, and perhaps we still are today, where if you were lighter skinned, you know, you were pretty, and if you were darker skinned, you would. So I had to deal with all of that going on while I was at school. But in the midst of all of that, I was really brilliant. Like I knew that I was smart.
Yes.
So I used all of my education to really propel me as a tool to get to where I wanted to go. So I did well at primary school, which I guess is like elementary school if you're in the US. And then I went over to high school. I passed for a really good high school. And I really did well at school. With a goal to going off to university. I was the first person in my family who went to university. So there were a lot of firsts from me. And it's in that space that I started to curate what it is that I wanted my life to look like and how I was going to get there. So that's where there's a vision and then there's a strategy. So that really is the beginning of it all. I think that God placed me in that scenario so that I can tap into that gift. Because I truly believe it's a gift. Nobody taught me. I didn't have anyone around me who was speaking about vision. Nobody was speaking about that.
Right.
They'll speak about the future, but they weren't really speaking about vision. So therefore, for me, I had to tap into that for myself. And that's where that gift came from. And if we would fast forward now to university, that's where I think I started to really lead into the areas that I wanted to go into. I've always studied business. I remember in high school, one of our first projects was to draw an image. It's so funny. Draw an image of yourself in your future profession. And guess what I drew? I was running my own business. I was a CEO.
I love that.
It's so funny because I had no CEOs in my family, but I guess, you know, you look at television and I drew myself behind a very big corporate desk and I had manager on my nameplate and I had forgotten about that. But I think hindsight is always 2020. And that was me at 11 years old.
Wow. So that's powerful to kind of go from the, you know, a girl that was, like you said, you guys still have some limitations. We all do. And yours, like you mentioned earlier, that, you know, you didn't feel like as a woman being maybe a darker skin, that it wasn't, you weren't like seen, or it was a bit difficult to be. And that's very true to this day. Still, there's some women that they look at you different based on your color and things like that. But I think those limitations, like what I'm hearing is you didn't let those things. I'm sure you had other limitations. Like you said, your family didn't have much money. And how many of people today that is still growing up in that environment where they may not feel as beautiful to be able to go to get the best job that they feel that they can get, or they don't feel smart enough. They don't feel. And what I'm taking away so far is that you were able to take that and really try to figure out how you can change that narrative for yourself, right? And make something else out of it. And I love that you mentioned that. So, you know, knowing that you had those limitations, you were able to kind of move forward, and you went to university and tried to better yourself. And, you know, having a gift inside of you, how were you able to now decide that after you got your business, degree, to decide that you wanted to be a business strategist and kind of focus on women and just business as a whole? How did you come up around that?
So that is a very interesting story. Now, I mentioned that what I had in my hand was that I'm really bright. I'm a very intelligent person, and I say that confidently now. I think back then I wouldn't have declared it as confidently as I do now, because you know, folks would think, oh, that's very prideful. But I was really smart. However, I went to university. The first year was great. The second year I struggled. And I don't know the reason, But that was the year that I didn't get all of the A's that I was usually getting. I was coming out of courses with C's and D's. Now, that is abnormal for me.
Right.
At that point, I am like 18. I don't remember any time in my life that I had ever gotten C's or D's. And it really affected me because up until that point, I was building my entire vision was predicated upon my ability to be very, very smart, an A student.
Yes.
So when that disappeared, honestly, it just affected me so badly. But then in the third year, I kind of pulled it back. And you know what I met in the third year? Business strategy. That was one of my third year courses. And I aced that course. I remember that feeling. And I remember that it just connected with me on a very deep level. But coming out of university, I did not graduate with first class honors, which is like cum laude if you're in the US. So at that point, I felt that I couldn't become a business consultant and strategist because I didn't come out with top honors. How can I advise anyone?
Yeah.
So at that point, I gave up. I said, you know what? Life is telling me, Dana, you need to go and get yourself a regular job and be humble.
Man, I can even imagine how you kind of like, sorry for interrupting, but just to think of how you are in this, like you're basically so excited to have taken this class, this business strategy class, and almost everything starts to like line up for you. And you're like, man, I can see myself doing this like every day and helping people and applying everything I've learned and things like that, because it came natural for you. But then you're so stuck on this part of your life but there's no A's or B's. Like I'm not getting the final grade that I want to get. But yeah, you have the ability to seriously move forward and you really put your vision forward out there. So yeah, I love to hear more.
That's exactly it. So I couldn't see how I can be this person. I couldn't see how I can be the CEO. So I actually went into a regular job. But as fate would have it, as God would have it, in this job, there are so many things that happen. One, I accelerated through this company at such a rapid pace that persons thought that like I had to have known somebody. And it wasn't that. I think it was just I was so good at what I was doing. They kept promoting me. And in promoting me, what I started learning was more strategy. I was actually placed in all of the strategic spaces. But it was in that environment that I found back my vision. And I can tell you why that happened. Because I realized that with every stage that I was going up, one, I wasn't as fulfilled. Two, the demands on my time, when I looked at the life that I wanted, I couldn't see how I would have it. Because the more you're promoted, the more demands there are. Exactly. And I knew the quality of life that I wanted for myself. So the vision that I had back when I was a child came back to me, and that vision started drawing me forward, that I could no longer ignore it. I could no longer ignore it. And it was in the space of growing in my career, but also growing in my knowledge, I realized that I needed to get back to my original plan. CEO. So it was CEO. Yes. And I left. I started my first business while working. And in 1 year, I transitioned out of my job into my business full time through strategy, through implementing business strategy that you came up with.
So how old were you at that time when you first said?
I had just gotten married. So I was 25. I was 25 years old.
Very young.
Yeah. And as I said, I was a manager already.
That's
I
wonderful.
had started working at 21. And so in 4 years, I was already a manager.
You worked really hard, yeah.
So, and I think it wasn't that I worked very hard. I think that there was something in me. There was an innate thing that I wasn't seeing, because previously I depended only on my academics.
Mm.
So actually, what was a transformational point for me was that I finally had a vision of me, of my worth, of my gifts, of my talents. And that made such a powerful shift for me in terms of actually pursuing what I really wanted to do.
So what was the business that you started at, like around the age, like you say, at 25?
I
Just
started an
curious.
events management firm.
Oh, wow.
I was an event manager. And you know what's interesting about that? The reason that I was able to actually get out of my job, like I could have comfortably left my job in a year, was because I landed government contracts. And that was through strategy. I started my business. And this is for those who are wanting to start your business and you just see checklists of things that you don't have. I did not start my business with a lot of money. Actually, I spent no money apart from registering the business. Everything else, I did a business model that afforded me money before I spent it. I started recruiting staff for positions that I didn't have contracts for, but I actually had the vision and I had the business model, and I started putting out ads. And because I put out those ads, I landed the government contract.
Wow.
That lasted for 2 years.
That's
and those
awesome.
were 5-figure contracts.
I mean, yeah,
So,
that's not everybody gets that type of contract, especially when you're just starting up as a business person, not a business. And, you know, you really don't have the resources to be able to get to that level as quickly as you did. So that really shows, like you said, again, being that person you've always been is part of your nature, and having that business mindset and always having that with you. And also using your other experiences to build that helps you really get to that. And I love that you said you didn't have the money, like the funds and things like that, but you didn't let that hold, like be like something that's going to hinder you and say, no, I cannot move forward now because I have this awesome idea, but I just don't have the funds. But you put the work in the pencil and you wrote those things down to kind of get you started. So I love to.
You know what's interesting? I just want to add to
What's
that.
interesting?
I didn't start off with my dream business. This is really important because I think that a lot of the times we feel, well, if it can't be my perfect business, then I can't do it. That business, when I started it, I spoke with my husband and I said, this is my transition business. This is not my forever business. This is my transition from where I am to where I really want to be. So what I find particularly with women, and particularly high achieving women, if it's not perfect, if all of the dots are not, there, if all the boxes are not checked, we are unwilling to start. For me, my pathway to the vision, and I believe that most persons' pathway to their vision, is learning how to start with what's in your hand. I'm great at planning events already. I'm still that person. I'm certified in planning events. Still that person. So I started with what's in my hand. And even with regards to spending a lot of money, this is where, you need to know what you're building so that you know where you can start. Like start where you're at. You don't have to have $10,000. You don't even have to have $1,000. You just need to put something out there that lets persons know what you're into, what you're providing, and have that business model, that business design that allows you to accomplish what you want to accomplish. So I just needed to put that in there because I am special. So are you.
We're all special.
We're all special. But this is something that others can do. And I mean, even when I work with my clients, not to talk about my business, but when I work with them, a lot of the times they're stuck because we are like checking things off. Well, Dana, I have a list of 10 things and I only have one, so I can't do it.
That's very typical.
Like, no, yes.
That's very typical. And honestly, like, especially as women, we're very big into checklists. Like, we're very big into checklists. We've been taught everything is like, you have to do this before you do this. So it's like, when you're growing up and you've been taught that, it's hard to kind of erase that. And feel like, you know what, why don't I start with where I can start and where I am right now? And then later on, we can add more to the list. Like you said, like start with what's in your hands. I'm terrible at that list too, because when I first started this platform, Lift Up Voices, and it was just very much something that I felt in my spirit that I needed to do. And I had all these life experiences that brought me up to where I am today. And I know I love storytelling. I love to write. And I'm like, well, that goes well with having a platform that allowed me to, now that I've connected with my voice, I can allow other people to come in and connect with their voice and amplify that. And so I'm like, but like you said, but I had all these lists in my head. Well, I don't know how to start a podcast. Like, what do I need to start a podcast? How much money do I need? And I'm like overly thinking every step to the point where I get depleted.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're definitely talking about me right now. That's how I was like list for days. So I'm so glad you brought that up, because next I want to transition right into your business. This is a great place to kind of talk about what you do, because I know you do such a phenomenal job with the people that you meet, the people that you have helped so many people transform their business. Because man, when you start a business, the end goal should be to want to make profit. Yeah, you want to help people. That's part of it. I have a platform here. I want to help people, but at the same time, these things takes energy, it takes investment, it takes time, it takes all those things. And so I want to go ahead and talk about business as far as, I've met so many women over the past, I feel like the last couple of years, there have been more women actually trying to follow within the path of the purpose, the vision. But I've also met a lot of them that say, I don't know where to start. Like, it's just overwhelming. Yeah. And so I wanted to ask this. You have been able to work a lot of women in and help them build. And you also are a builder yourself too. So I would like to know, what are some simple strategies? You've already said some of those. I said one or two strategies that are very doable that you can share with our women that maybe just at the point of giving up, like, I've tried everything. And how can you kind of lift the spirit again and say, you know what, keep going? 2 strategies that can help them to avoid some pitfalls within their business.
2 strategies to avoid some pitfalls. I can think of so many strategies. The first thing that I want to say is passion produces profit. Passion produces profit.
Love that.
I'm never going to be the coach or the consultant that tells you give up your passion. In fact, I would want you to redesign your business so that it leans into the thing that you are passionate about. The reason that a lot of us feel very overwhelmed and very tired is because we're constantly in hustler mode.
Yes.
We started this thing perhaps because we needed some extra money.
Yes.
But right now, you need to find the thing in your business that you love. You need to find the thing that you are passionate about. Because here's what happens with passion, right? It's very easy to get persons to buy into passion. You can't fake it. Like, you can tell I love what I do. Right. I can sit and talk about this all day long, right?
Right.
So passion makes your marketing easier. Passion allows you to carve out space for what you want to do in your business. But I also need to caution you that passion can also make you make very bad financial decisions in your business.
Right.
So the first strategy I want to give to you is get back to the passion. Get back to what you really love to do in your business. If you are growing and scaling your business, here's the thing that I would say. Keep the things you're passionate about, delegate the things you're not. So the things that suck your energy dry, you're like, Dana, I really hate writing emails, Dana. I'm going to say, here's what to do. What are you passionate about in your business? There are things that we are passionate about, and there are things we have to do in our business.
Right.
Try to keep as much of the things that you're passionate about, and incrementally, because we don't need to spend all our money, incrementally delegate the things that you're least passionate about but are necessary for the functioning of your business. So that can simply be your administrative tasks. I think that you should, if depending on the stage you're at, I would want you to keep your social media, but perhaps delegate your email marketing. And that's perhaps a unique perspective compared to what most persons would say. But the reason that I would say keep your social media, it's because that is the avenue through which you could most easily demonstrate your passion that people buy into. And so what I've found is that when you delegate that to a social media content planner, it does not easily translate. The passion does not come out. Suddenly things get robotic and people disconnect from your business. So that's my first strategy. Passion produces profits. Keep the things that you're passionate about, sis. Start delegating the things that, cause you pain. And then the second thing that I would suggest that you do, I mean, I want to say 3, but I'm going to just stick with 2. The second thing that I want to suggest you do is to fix your pricing strategy. Yeah, I just said that. Fix your pricing strategy. That is a weird one. I think a lot of you all may not think about, but most times the struggle that I see with entrepreneurs, business who are now starting off, is that their pricing structure is very poor. So that they think they're making a profit, but they don't compensate for their overheads that are involved in running their business. They don't compensate for their time that they're running their business. So what happens is that you never pay yourself. You can't pay your bills. So technically you have a profit, but actually you have a loss. Because I believe that you should be able to pay yourself from your business from day one. The way that you do that is fixing your pricing. So if I were to give an example, I have a client who she was creating, she had headpieces and stuff that she was always creating. So when she was doing her pricing, she would price for her materials. She would price for like maybe her shipping and her handling. But when we were working together, I asked her, so how much do you pay yourself? Where is it? Oh, I don't know. What is your hourly rate? You make these things. Like if we were to expand your business and you were to hire someone, you actually have no wiggle room there to hire anybody. How do you pay for the maintenance of your machinery? You saw these things. Where is that in your pricing? So when I started to add what she was actually paying as her overheads from what she had priced, she was making a significant loss. So the truth is, when you're in business, as much as we want to just say about the passion part of it, if you're not getting paid after a while, it's going to be very frustrating for you. So let's fix that. Let's get you paid from your business. Fix your pricing structure. Fix your pricing strategy. And the easiest way I can tell you to do that is to price for 5 years ahead when you have staff, when you have you have overheads like electrical bills and internet service and all of those things. Keep that in your mind. Price for that business. So as you grow, you don't end up having to change your price so radically that you lose all of your clients.
Love that. It sounds like it all comes down to planning and just having the right strategy or strategist to be able to guide you and figure out the things, the in and outs of all of this. Again, we all, like for myself too included, we are so driven by passion sometimes that we forget, the part of the business that we need to be able to produce for us. And I love that you give so many awesome strategy. I took away the first one. And then it just talking about how it's very, very, like you said, important that we, when we're doing our business, we should be able to focus on the profit. And it's not all just about having a passion. Because I was going to say also, like, do you think that people will buy more into your passion before they actually buy into your product or whatever it is you have? Do you think that's mostly
definitely.
the case?
Definitely, because there is this, I'm sure if you've been around social media, you hear people like from who they know, like, and buy from who they know, like, and trust. We've all heard it. But if I were to think about it from a very practical perspective, imagine that we were in a room networking.
Yeah.
And so therefore I see, so I see you across the room and I think, oh, she looks really nice. I should go, chat with her. So you cause me to stop and I come over to chat with you. But if I come over to chat with you and you're like, hi,
No smile.
No smile,
Straight
no
face.
passion,
Yes.
straight face.
Mhm.
Obviously, I'm like, oh, you're not passionate about anything. Like, I don't want to hear anything that you
Yeah,
have to
that's a
say,
turn off.
right?
Mhm.
Exactly. So people like to see that what you're passionate about. Now, I think people misconstrue passion for excitement, and it's not.
What's the difference?
Passion is you're able to actively speak about the aspect of what you do that you really love. So, for instance, you have your podcast right now.
Right.
The aspect of it that you might really love is
Mhm.
connecting with other women and creating a space, and that really fuels you. So
Right.
that is a passion that you will show at the front. The
Mhm.
passion might not necessarily be that you have like 100,000 downloads. That might
Right.
not be the passion. The
Right.
passion is, what is it all about? What's the core of it? What is the vision behind it? I always say that vision is not the thing. There is a time in our lives where we're taught that vision is the acquisition of a thing. I would like to get a house. I would like to get a car.
Okay.
I would
Yeah.
like to have a business.
Mhm.
In fact, the most powerful vision is expressed as your lived experience at a particular point in time.
Wow.
So it is, what am I doing? Who am I with? What am I experiencing? How do I feel? And what happens is that the business, the house, the car are tools that help you to live a better life design. So if you think about your business and passion, the business is the way that you express the thing that you're passionate about, connecting with women or connecting with voices. So the business provides the pathway. So what is the passion that we demonstrate? My passion that I demonstrate is that I am passionate about removing the veil of ignorance for our people in the Caribbean and in the Caribbean diaspora so that they can actually build a business that pays them well now and leaves a legacy. I would like to break the lack of information, that cycle of lack of information, so that we can do it better. That's what I'm passionate about. The things that I do, how I do it, that's the business. But the thing I'm passionate about is that transformational work, because I'm really interested in breaking the cycle. In our region, Caribbean region, we have this, in particular in Trinidad, we have this idea of the 1%. The 1% that doesn't look like me, doesn't, and they have a different background as I do, and they hold all of the wealth in business.
Okay.
My goal is to help change that so that regular folks like me who are trying to do different for their family, trying to change a legacy, we can now know how to do that in a more effective way. So that's what I'm passionate about. The business is how I do it.
Yes, it all comes together. Yeah.
So folks see my passion every single time I turn up and I teach. Everyone knows, like, oh, wow, you're really passionate about it. Yes, I am.
But I think like you said, when a passion, and I think for a lot of time, especially in the era of content creating and just, I feel like everybody is just now really into finding the purpose more so than any other time that I can remember. And I feel, but you are right. It's like, again, like me, it's transitioning that passion. Yeah, I want to help people. Yeah, I want everyone, most people, I won't say everyone, most people want to do good, right? They want to help people, but it's like, now how do I transition, like you said, this passion to actually make an income and leave a legacy and create something,
I think that people feel guilty for charging for their passion.
I think so too.
That is the problem. We feel very guilty for charging for our passion.
Yes.
And that is a mindset shift that we have to make, first of all. But then secondly, Nike doesn't feel guilty about charging for their designs.
So
Nike doesn't feel, no. Every
pay.
recording artist that we go on, iTunes and download their album, they don't feel any kind of way about charging for their passion. I think somehow we've misconstrued passion as free. And that is not a true no, because all of the things that we pay for are products of person's passions that we
Passions.
paid for. And I also think there is a qualification element that we keep holding in our mind. I can only charge for it when I am.
Qualify.
But my position is this: when you start demonstrating your passion, you train people how to teach, how to treat it. So, for instance, the longer I'm in a relationship with my clients, my social media platform, if I keep putting out my passion and never asking for any reciprocity, you have established the terms of that relationship. So you're never really, it's going to be very difficult to migrate from that relationship to a different space. They're going to be like, I did not sign up for this face. I didn't sign up for this.
And
no,
that's so
I did
true.
not.
That's so true, because you're right. What people's the way people see you come out and you share things, and then because people don't know, like for instance, let's use me for example. All right, so I've been doing this for a year, yeah, and having a platform as such as this, it's a lot of work that goes into it. But yet, most people may not know. They might just think, oh, it's just one of those things. It's just podcasting. But at the same time, this thing takes time. Hours and hours of researching, hours and hours of writing content, hours and hours paying for a website that I'm able to upload things onto there. And all of those things cost money. So it's like, yeah, that makes sense. It's like you should be able to charge for your passion. And as long as you're doing, because we're doing a lot of work into this. Like if I was working for somebody else doing the exact same thing, I will be paid for the time and the effort and my creativity as well. And so you're so right when you said that. It's that guilt thing that we have, and I have it, because you're like, well, if I start to charge, it may seem like, well, maybe my purpose is not really what it was. But it's like, now that you said that, it makes sense to me. It all comes together, right? A passion also is probably what's going to also fuel the business, and the business is going to fuel the passion. So you cannot separate the two.
Definitely. You
So
cannot separate the two. And the longer that you keep being afraid to monetize that passion, then it's going to be increasingly difficult. I remember working with somebody once. She had a 10,000, I'm not kidding, she has a 10,000 follower Instagram page and can barely get anyone to sign up for her programs. Why? Because she kept doing free, or highly discounted. So I always say you have to decide, and nothing is wrong with having a discount brand, but you have to make a decision. Are you a discount brand, or are you a premium brand? Are you a retail store brand? Like, where are you in the spectrum?
Yes. Are you a nonprofit? Are you just, are you just?
But you know what's interesting? Do you know what's interesting? As you say,
what's
nonprofit.
Interesting?
Nonprofits make money.
I believe that, yeah.
They're just not for profits. Think about it. They have charitable events. Nonprofit charities make millions of dollars. They ask for money. So I remember telling someone one time, I said, well, you're not a charity. And if you were, just remember the charities also make money. So you're not being a very good charity either.
Yeah. You're right. Because when you run a business, you have to pay taxes on that too. I mean, if you have such a good incomes out of that. So whereas nonprofit, there is earnings, which in the form of donations, but those are tax exempt. So like you said,
tax exempt.
Yeah.
But they still make money. They still have overheads that they pay. So if they weren't collecting money, even because some nonprofits actually have storefronts, meaning that they sell things. So it means that they have to have a way of making money to pay their staff, to do their overheads, to actually do their charitable work. So in the same manner, if a nonprofit can do that, and you're a for-profit business, then we need to think about how you monetize your passion, and you should not feel guilty for doing that. I believe that God gave us some of these gifts, talents, and abilities to help us live abundantly. So it means that we can get money from it, right? Because we live in the world.
I love everything you just said. Yeah, your passions should be able to open doors for you to be able to take care of, the things that you need to take care of at the same time. Because if we all just do our passions, like if all musicians named charge for the music, it won't get, because once you start to see the returns of your labor, it's a bit of a motivation sometimes too, to want to push you forward, to want to, you see that, okay, this is something I like doing, not because like, but you have to make money off of it, because if you're done and you just kind of go back in the same place. So thank you so much for sharing all that with us today. So before we wrap up here, I need to talk about your book, because I think that's very important. It's such a short period of time to get everything, all the nuggets and the strategies that you just wanted to share with us. So you did share some things today, but I know you wrote a book that has everything that they need to to move the business forward.
Yeah.
And it's called The Vision Builder. And I want to also know, like, what are some things, just maybe 2 things that people may learn from reading this book?
Well, actually, the book isn't called The Vision Builder. I am called The Vision
Oh,
Builder.
I'm so sorry. Yes.
So everyone calls me The Vision Builder because my goal is to help you see, believe, and build the vision. But in terms of the book that I'm most proud of, actually, I created a tool for business owners, particularly in the same area of pricing. I sat down for, I believe it was 6 months, and created basically a guide and manual that is going to help you to step by step price your product, price your service, or price a program. Okay. And the reason that I did that is because of exactly what you're talking about, what we've been talking about. People are struggling to price their passion. People are struggling to price their products. And it really does hurt me, because I see how much work this is put into what they put onto the market. And then to know that you are undercutting yourself, you get paid and then you're angry because you can't pay your bills. And I think that the passion that we feel in our businesses can only last so long when you can't eat, when you can't pay your bills. So I've written a book, Pricing for Profitability, and I've made it like it is a digital book right now. I'm in the process of making it into a physical book for Amazon. But in it, you can actually fill in your details. Like, I'm taking you through step by step how to price your product, how to price your service, which tends to be tricky for a lot of folks, and how to price your programs, like your courses and that sort of thing. And the reason that I was passionate about doing that is because there was a narrative floating around on social media that annoyed me, which is charge your worth and price for value. And I just thought to myself, that makes no sense, because if today I feel really great about myself, I'm going to charge $1,000. And if tomorrow my self-esteem is taking a bit of a hit, I can charge $100. It is impractical. And it leaves things up in this airy-fairy space without any real information. And because of the academic side of me, I like facts, figures, and numbers. So, but I know everybody's brain isn't there. So I've created this very simple guide to help entrepreneurs to really figure out how to price their products or service, firstly for profit before you add value, so that you will always make a profit with every sale. Always be able to pay yourself, always be able to pay your overheads, because the pricing structure is solid.
Wonderful. I mean, that's a great guide. I love that I love when you have like a book that has a work as like an action plan into it too, that you can kind of put your own personal spin on to make sure you get the right things out of it. So that's really important. And again, these of course can be found on your website as well. We'll cover that in a little bit. And then, so we are actually starting a new thing on the show. So it's where it's called The Last Three, where I asked 3 questions, and basically you answer in real time. But it's not going to be too hard. Okay. And so the first question I wanted to ask is, how did you find and connect to your own voice?
By using it. Since I was a child, it's funny, I always talked a lot. And at school, my parents would get this report: Dana is very bright. She does her work well. She talks too much. Well, look at me now. I talk for a living.
It all comes full circle.
Full circle. I used my voice. I think initially I was intimidated because I don't sound like the the coaches that you usually hear. I don't have that coaching voice. And I thought that maybe I would be too frank. But in using my voice, my audience have gotten very accustomed to me. They're accustomed to my directness, and they know I'll always be honest with them. And now, several years after having started using my voice more openly, I can say that I there is space for your voice, whatever it is. There is
Love it.
space for your voice. We have billions of persons on this earth. There is space for your voice.
Love that. Yeah, I love it. Second question, what are you most proud of right now, this moment in real time?
I am most proud of the fact that I am living my ideal life design and my vision. I like that you asked this. It actually makes me very emotional. I'm an avid writer. Every year I have my journals, and this last week I went back to my vision that I wrote down for 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, and I am living that vision in its entirety. And everything that I wrote, I'm presently living. And that is something that I'm really moved by. And I'm really honored that persons allow me into their space to teach and empower them. So I'm most proud right now that I can honestly say that I'm living my ideal life design, and that I'm building exactly what I wanted to build out of my life.
Love it. That's excellent. Just to know that, hey, no matter how big you get, no matter how much money you make, like, you can always revisit your vision, and just to kind of see what you're saying, like where you came from, and looking back. We all have to look back sometime, because that just reminds us about the progression and how far we come. So thanks for sharing that. And last question is for me. I want to just, this is an awesome question. Just, I feel like we all have lessons in life. If you see it as a lesson, right, it will be a lesson for sure. What's one life lesson you have learned, like just along your life journey, would you say?
I would say is choose progress over perfection. That is it every single time. Choose progress over perfection. And to do that means that you are likely going to have to start afraid. Too often we wait to feel no fear, to see everything perfectly aligned. But I'm a product of starting with what I had. I'm a product of even having spoken for so long in person. When I had to transition to speaking digitally, it was nerve-wracking. And I started anyway, and here I am today. So that's my lesson: progress over perfection, and know that you can start afraid and it will be just fine.
I love it. Progress over progression. Just do it. Is that what the Nike Nike says? Just do it.
I'm not Nike. Progress over perfection.
Right. No, I know. Like,
just do it, Nike.
Just
do it. Just do
right.
it. Start
Like what you're
afraid.
saying, just do it. Just don't be afraid. Just do whatever it is that you feel in your body, in your soul, in your mind, that God has designed you, predestined you to fulfill, and yet we're still sitting around and just trying to figure it out. So I love that.
And it's always
progress.
worse in your mind than it is in reality.
It
I was to
is.
just drop that in, it's always worse than your mind.
It is.
Always. Like
Yes.
those imaginary voices, they have like a whole situation going on.
Exactly.
But when you step out and you do it, you're like, oh,
not so
it's
bad.
not that bad. I'm sure when you started the podcast, it was nerve-wracking in your mind even before you started, but when you actually did it, it's not that bad. So, but the only way we find that out is by taking an action. So that's why you have to start afraid. I don't lie to anyone and say, oh, you're gonna feel great. I'm like, no, you're perhaps gonna be quaking, shaking all the way through.
But don't quit. Yes, no matter how
do it anyway.
Yes. I mean, we all have that moment where we just feel like it's just overwhelming. And I remember, and I think one of the worst thing too is when you have such a big vision, or maybe a small vision. There's no really, every vision has a purpose, and I feel when you just so excited by something. I don't know if you ever had this happen, and then you just share it with somebody that's close to you, maybe a family member, but that not even thinking that God didn't give them that vision. So don't expect them to respond like how you wish they would. That happened to
Yep.
me when I had this podcast.
Yeah.
And I told my family, my brother was like, by the way, like, do you know how much it costs to start a podcast, or like just different? And I mean, obviously, honestly, I understand he's trying to figure out on my behalf,
How you going? Yeah.
like a concern there, but I'm thinking I've already looked into this stuff. Like, I know that there's going to be a way. God's not going to give me a purpose, and without giving me the idea for a reason, not giving me the practical part of it to complete that. So I know it's going to be
Yeah.
hard, but we're going to make it
You know,
happen.
that's so sweet. Because like if I were to share just one final thought, I know we're wrapping up. After I completed my master's, my bachelor's, I started
Mhm,
my business. I went on to do my master's,
mhm,
because now it was in the area of my passion, and I left my master's with highest distinction. Like, so do you see, like,
mhm.
this is where I started, and now that you find your passion and you lean into it, that's where you end up. And I remember my dad asking me, well, now that you have your master's, are you going to go back to a regular job? And I said, Dad, no,
No.
I have a job. It's called my business. And
Mhm.
that was like a few years ago when I did my master's. And just this
Awesome.
year, he said to me, I'm so proud of you. You're like doing such great things. You're speaking all over the world. The only person I ever knew growing up like that was Les Brown. And I thought,
Oh,
oh, I've made it.
that's a great
Daddy compared
compliment.
me to Les Brown. I've made
That is
it.
a great, and that's where that's the testimony that you see when you put in that work and you just don't give up and you just consistently move
Yeah.
through, and then you see the end of it, and you see people like your father tells you, I see your work, I see what you've
Because you
done.
see that they didn't have the vision. So as you build the vision, then they buy into the vision. And sometimes I see
Love
these
that.
things on social media. When I get to where I'm going, all of the people who didn't support me shouldn't be there. And I'm like, that is such a negative perspective.
Mhm.
They don't have the vision, it was given to you. So when
Yes.
they see it fulfilled, be grateful that they can see it manifested, and that they're
Mm.
encouraged, and that they're now supporting you. So for me,
Yes.
that was like a full circle moment.
I
That's
love
when
that you
I
share
was
that.
like Les Brown. I'm good. I'm good forever.
Life is good here now. I mean, that's so awesome that you share that, because that's a lot of reality for a lot of us that are over here, like you said, trying to hustle, figure out things out. And one of the quote that I recently came up with, I said, if somebody tells you, right, you cannot do something, like they have a doubt, basically, let your work ethic and your consistency prove to them, that to be the thing that actually erase that doubt.
Yeah,
And I mean, that's a great example you just shared right there. And so, yeah, thank you so
yeah.
much for being on. And before we close here, how can our listeners and viewers be able to tap into a lot of what great things you're doing, and share with us your website and other things?
Okay, so you can connect with me on Instagram, at the Vision Builder Co, the Vision Builder CEO, Dana Hayes-Burke. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can find me there. And you can visit my website, danahayesburke.com. Every single Monday, I
Mhm.
do a live broadcast where I teach in the area of business, some area of marketing, or ideal your life design structures in your business. So you can
Mm,
catch that on YouTube or on LinkedIn.
mm.
And I'm always teaching, I'm always sharing something. So I would love to connect with you on any of my social media platforms. You can subscribe to my email list. I'm a teacher, and you're going to see that I do a lot of teaching. And thereafter, if you would like to work with me, you can definitely do that as well.
Wonderful. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for being here. I just want to say again, thank you so much, Dana, for being able to come on the podcast and share and give us some really awesome, great strategies on how to build our businesses and how to really fall within our vision and to be able to get those ideas and all these dreams within our imaginators, bring it into reality and make something of
Yeah.
it. And thank you so much for being able to be that guide for us today. I've learned so much. And there's
Thank you
so
so
much.
much for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, you share so many great things with us. So thank you guys all for being here and listening. Now, if you guys like to support this podcast, which I would love for you to support us, because we are bringing some great information to you guys, some great expertise stories. And of course, I lift a voice. We're lifting voices through storytelling, right? Global voices through storytelling, one unique story at a time. We're about transcending voices, right? To connect some of those human experiences to us to grow. So thank you guys for being here. And again, you can support us at Patreon. It's a great place that you can sponsor your favorite podcast platform like this one. Again, everything we do, it takes time, and we want to make sure we can continue bringing you guys the more amazing and elevating stories. So keep it right with us here. We'll be back again next time, and we thank you guys for listening in.